Welcome back to Spartan Design University with your host, Paul Cheney. We're going to tackle the navigation for the phone in this video. So far we've been looking at this thing full size, which is our desktop version, but we need to reduce it down to represent what it's going to look like on a cell phone. And this is fine for a mouse, but it's not going to work at all for fat fingers on a phone. So we're going to take this and we're going to switch it to 2 columns of links. Apple recommends that each touchable area is no smaller than 44 by 44. So that's about where we're at here. And we're going to do that CSS. So here we are in the phone default. We've got our navigation. We're going to start with the list items because our links are list items in a UL. First thing we want to do is float those to the left. Well, that's not going to have any effect because right now they're still 100% wide. So let's change the width to 50%. And we'll put some space between each one using margin. Top and bottom, and 2% on the left and right. That's probably going to give us something like this. Oh, I forgot. There we go. Margin 0.2%. All right, that didn't work. It wasn't supposed to. The reason is because if the width is 50% and then I add to the outside an additional 2%, each button is now 54% wide, which only leaves 46% over here on this side, and you can't take a 54% graphic and put it in a 46% space. So we need to reduce this to 46. 46 plus 2 on each side is 50%. We save it, we hit refresh, and they now stack nicely side by side. Now, for our anchor tag, I'm going to drop in a block of code and just talk about it. We're going to put the text in the center of the button. You must display all anchors as blocks because by default they are not blocks, not complete blocks. We're going to make the font bold. Remember, our SC font was loaded in as a 300 and a 600. Well, now we're referencing that 600 number. We're going to put margin of 0.2 ems on the top and bottom of each anchor and nothing on the left and right. We're going to put padding. This is space inside the button. Top and bottom, nothing on the left and right. Text decoration is the line that's underneath a default link. Color for the text is white. The background color, this is interesting. Let me delete that one. Whoops. Let me delete that one and we'll come back to it. And then we've got a border radius of 16 pixels. So let's save that. See what we've got over here. And you can see when we highlight it that we have a bold font. There we go. We have white buttons on a white background. We have white text on a white background. That's why it's not showing up. Now, in order to get the color behind here to work correctly, we have to put it up here in the container. So the background color for the container becomes the background color for the navigation. So the color we're looking for is AB6D00. That should be a brown color from our color scheme. And sure enough, it is. Notice now that when I hover, I get a nice round button. Now I could come into here. Let's go back down to our anchors. And I could assign this some color. background. And I could pick a color that was slightly darker than my gold color, if I could find it. Okay, like that. Save it. Save it. There we go. All right, that's okay, but it's easier if you do this trick. Let's do background color, RGBA, and we're just going to darken it using an alpha value. So we're going to darken it with black, so no red, no green, and no blue, and 0.2, in other words, 20% transparency. So it's going to simply darken the existing color a little bit. There we go. So if I change this color to, say, red, I'm not going to have to change my button color because it's simply going to darken the color that's there. I don't want red, so I'll go back to my brown color. Hit refresh, and there we go. Now, down here in the links, we've got a background color of 999 for, which is a gray color for the hover state. Now, there is no hover on a phone, but when you touch a menu on the phone, it actually temporarily flashes the hover color. So we're going to darken it even more. So our original was 20% darker than the background color. Now we're going to go to 40% darker than the background color. Hit refresh. And now it's darkened just a touch more. And that's about what my phone would look like. One more problem we have. Notice that the assignment resources is popped up into the navigation area. The reason it does is because the navigation, all of these list items have now been floated or lifted off the page. So the nav and the UL have collapsed up here, making room on this side for the content and assignment resources to pop up there. So we simply need to stop those from collapsing. And one way to do that is to insert a div that's just empty. And we'll give it a class equals, and I like to call it keep open. So it describes what it does. It prevents the UL from collapsing around the floated list items. Now that in and of itself isn't going to do anything for me until I go to my phone, and down at the bottom I add a section for other stuff. You do div dot keep open, and here we're going to say it to clear both sides. Hit refresh, and that now pops that underneath. So our navigation area is nice and brown and all by itself. Now we're going to change the color of this area and this area here in a minute, so these don't flow all together. But navigation for the phone is done and in place. Problem is the tablet.